Call this meeting to order. Ask you please to stand for the invocation of Commissioner Jones and standing for the pledge of the flag.
Lord, we're just so grateful for the opportunity to come together and work for the citizens of this great county. We pray that you'll bless us and be with us and lead us and guide us and help us to make wise decisions. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item, consideration of a resolution to approve the agenda. In your little green book right there, you've got an item that's a proclamation declaring April as the Donate Life Month. We've done this several years. They just seem to get it to us at the last minute. I would ask that that please be added as new business number 15. Any other changes or corrections?
How about number 6? Number 6 in new business. How about that?
You asking to add 16?
Yeah.
As?
Yeah, I thought she was going to do it. Okay. That's the consideration to appoint members to the Industrial Development Authority. I was going to bring that up. She said she already had it, so she's already got it added to 16. And it's in your grade vote.
All right, so we got two things being asked to add to our agenda. I'll entertain, if there's nothing else, a motion either to add both items, one item, no item.
I'll make a motion to approve new business 15 and new business 16.
And the agenda.
To the agenda,
Yes.
add those two items as items 15 and 16, and new business of the agenda. I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
And a second. Other questions, discussion? I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve the minutes for the March 3rd, 2015 Commissioner meeting.
I have one item. It was old business the last time, and they left Commissioner Kiefer's name off of it in old business.
Which item?
Forest Floyd made,
Which item?
It was old business.
Old business, which item?
It was one old business, I think,
Oh, old business,
last Commissioner Floyd made a motion to approve the request. Vice Chairman Jones seconded the motion. Commissioner DeLoach and Loper opposed the motion. The motion carried 3-2.
Okay,
So
that's,
Keefer's name was left out of it completely.
his name doesn't need to be there.
It wouldn't need to be.
His name doesn't need to be there.
Why is that?
Commissioner Floyd made a motion, Commissioner Jones seconded the motion. Your name and Commissioner DeLoach's is there because you opposed the motion. He didn't oppose the motion, so.
He didn't vote on it?
He
Well,
voted.
no, it's 3-2. The only way it could be 3-2 was if I did vote.
Right.
I know that.
Or if it was a part of the record that he recused himself from
Right.
the meeting. Or he didn't vote for me.
That's true. But that would be, I guess.
I think the minutes, that's no correction needed for that.
I think what you're saying is that's how you normally do it.
That's
You
the way
don't name
it's
the
done.
commissioner if it's 3-2. You've always done it that way.
That's right.
If we want to change it and require that, we can start doing it that way. But she's saying that's typical of how it's been
I
done.
thought everybody's name was on there the way they voted. That's always been. I voted like this. And they got 3-2, and I guess everybody takes that for granted. He was the one that made
Well, if the chairman would have voted, it would have shown, it would have a 2-2 vote, and then it would have shown tie-breaking vote.
Whatever. Doesn't make any difference. We've always corrected that up to this time, so. Premature, I mean, one way or the other.
Well, if you look down, Reggie, on subsequent items on down, like I said, Commissioner Loper made a motion, Commissioner Kiefer seconded, the motion carried unanimously. There's no reason for his name to be in that.
Okay, well, I figured when it was a split vote, that's what I was talking about on the split vote, they always had the name on there, who voted for it and who voted against it.
Only who votes against.
Pardon?
Only who votes against.
If she was only those against, then that means everybody else.
Well, he made the motion, she seconded it,
Right,
we voted on it, the three of them voted for it,
right,
Deloach and myself voted against it.
right. It shows you and Commissioner Deloach as
So
opposing
that's all-
to
that's all you need
everyone
on
else
that.
voted. Yes, sir.
All right.
So corrected.
Any other questions on the minute? No other questions, corrections, additions? Ask for a
I
motion.
make a motion to approve the March 3rd Commissioners meeting agenda, minutes,
That's written.
as written.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Ask the public comments be limited to the agenda items only as they come up. And the correspondence documents from this meeting are located in the clerk's office and on the Board of Commissioners website. First item of old business. Consideration to approve the second reading to amend Chapter 46, Article Number 2, Recreation Commission of the official Effingham County Code of Ordinances.
Mr. Chairman, this was brought up at the last meeting, and it was approved with some changes to 4632 and 4635. Those changes have been made. 4632 is board membership, where it previously read 5 members, each of whom shall be residents of the county with at least 1 member from each commission district. At least has been stricken because it's residents with 1 member from each commission district. And the ideally 1 member shall be a member of the school board athletic department has been stricken. And then in 4635, it was 2/3 of the members to constitute a quorum, and for all transaction of business, it now says 3 members of the recreation board shall constitute a quorum, and 3 affirmative votes shall be required to approve any business. Those are the changes that was suggested by the board in the previous meeting.
So it looks as all the changes that the board asked for in the first reading have been made. On the last signature page, the second reading should be changed to today's date.
It's changed on the copy that you
Okay,
received.
on the one that I'll sign.
Yes.
All right, it should also be noted that I think I and several other commissioners received some other input from some citizens that have been passed along. I think all of y'all have gotten that information. So my only question before the board is there any other changes that you have seen since the first reading that needs to be made? And if not, then I'll entertain a motion.
Anybody have any changes? If not, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
No, I stated what I thought for the last meeting, so it didn't change, so I don't have anything.
I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading with the changes that's been made.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Let the record show. It passes 3-2. Commissioners Loper and Deloach voting against. All right. Next item under old business, consideration to accept the roads and drainage infrastructure in Hunter's Chase subdivision.
Sure, this too came before the board previously and was tabled for some additional information to be gathered. Commissioner Loper and I and Mr. Tucker wrote out to look at these particular roads and also I believe Commissioner Jones requested some information on the previous, on the minutes where the plat was originally approved by the board. And in this case, it was done in 2005, and the plat never came to the board. It was done administratively at that time by staff. But we did include for y'all any correspondence that we had on this particular item. And what did go to the board was a grassing bond. So there were 3 different bonds, a grassing bond, I believe a completion bond, and some other bond, and a letter of credit. So you have those items of information. You also see in here some inspection reports that were done in 2009, one in 2006. And that's the only 2 we have that were done both by OMI, or CH2 prior to Kenny taking back over Public Works. And you can see their comments on the particular development at those times. And there's also some correspondence in here, January 27, 2004, on the ash, concerning the ash for the road that appears to have come from Mr. Rutherford. I'm sorry, from Mr. Crawley to Mr. Rutherford.
So none of those concerns were addressed and corrected, and the bonds have all expired.
Yes, sir.
None of them were cash bonds that we're still maintaining.
No, sir.
I didn't get a chance to look at that like I would have liked to have. Bond-wise, is that like what has happened in some of the other cases is the county would obtain a bond and then when it expired, they just let it expire rather than causing it to renew or calling it or whatever. There wasn't like an upkeep on that, it doesn't appear, so.
There were letters.
I think there were letters of credit written for a 1-year period, and I would have to assume that's accurate. I wasn't here in 2006 when this would have expired, but apparently, yes, there was a letter of credit written in some. Now, some of them were grassing. There's clearly grass in there, and those would have expired.
And just to be clear, this is not done this way anymore. This is
That's correct.
so
Correct.
it's
But all the
still
info-
some older stuff in
But
here.
all the information we have in him, with here, there's nobody else to fix that road in there, right?
I'm sorry, there's no way to fix it.
All the information we have, there's nobody left. I mean, the banks own the land, and we own the water and the sewer, and one person owns the roads, which they will never fix them. They won't never spend a cent on them. So who's it left to fix the roads besides the county?
Who owns the roads?
The original developer still does, and it's, I'm trying to, Hunter's Chase.
Who is that?
Greg.
Greg House. So, and the only thing I wanted to fix was and you rode over there with me, the $4,500 you could patch those 3 places. The biggest thing was in the hump in the middle of the road. And I thought we could fix that. We've been accepting other roads. And the rest of the road I thought was pretty good. You don't think the rest of the road would last 2 or 3 more years if we fix those bad places?
I don't know if they'll last 2 or 3. I mean, they may. They'll last for some time period. I mean, my opinion is that they're going to come apart at some point, just like all the rest. And you can see in 2006 and 2009, those were both,
Looks like the rest of our part is 6, doesn't it?
number 6 on the 2006 letter, 7 dedicated roadways is not recommended due to asphalt failure to prematurely occurring. And that same comment shows up in 2009 again as number 7.
Toss, when we voted on the roughly 50 subdivisions and approximately 500 roads that have still not been taken over by the county, and we looked at the list and separated or designated a list with the roads that pretty much needed no work. And what we talked about was, let's take those first, where there's not going to be any substantial money to the county, blah, blah, blah. We had several meetings discussing that and working that out. Where did this subdivision fall on that list? Was it one of the ones that needed the least and should be taken over first, or was it going to be one of the ones that we worked on at the end because it was a greater need? Do you know?
It was on the end. It was not on the list that the board approved in November.
What I'm in favor of is following what we said originally when we voted, is to try to approve the ones that appears need to know money spent, get those roads approved, and then get to these harder ones. And we may in truth need to take them over. But I say let's do what we said and try to get the minimal first. That's my opinion.
And the work, and the $4,500, all that work's got to be, that's got to be taken care of at some point. If we redo the road, we still got to do that before we fix the roads. Even if we're taking 3 or 4 years from now. And the hump in the road is the biggest thing. I said $4,500 on that. And that's in line with what we've been fixing, or less than some of we've.
How many homes are in there?
Probably 25 or 30.
Well,
The actual homes probably, I think it's more lots than that, but yeah, they're not all built on.
well, and I'm
Yeah, I mean, how many? I'm just curious how much traffic those roads have seen.
something I do want to say is, you know, what I know we're all attempting to do is look out for the best interest of the taxpayers, and we didn't want to leave the people that have bought houses and basically paid for the roads and the purchase of their lot, not taken care of properly, which was the intent at the time that the roads were supposed to be built according to county specifications, but these particular roads did not have to be built to county specifications. They made a talking about a variance, that they allowed something altogether different to happen in here. But also, one of the things we've been stuck with is when there is nobody, when the developer's totally moved out of state and out of business, and it was a corporation and it's under, and he's not here and we can't find him, you know, that's one situation. But when we have somebody that is here, that's in some type of situation where they're able to continue to conduct business in other areas, I don't know the legalities of what we can do or not do, but I know for myself, as an example, I have to have all my taxes paid in order to get my business license every year. And so I don't know if there's things like that we can do where these people that are still doing business and wanting approvals and things, if there's roads that they're responsible for, I don't know, but I think that's something that we need to look at as well.
And I don't know the answer to that either, the legalities of it, but I know this particular developer is just turning the sketch plan. They'll be before you very soon, asking for another one. There's 71 lots. I don't know how many of them are built on. I know it's not all of them. I'd say, like Commissioner Loper.
It's 25 or 30.
Yeah.
25 or 30.
So that's my point. You're saying that the same person's going to be coming asking to do another development, and here we're saying we can't get him to fix this one. That's a problem. That's the problem that we need to deal with in a different way than the others.
I don't disagree, but why did you require a bond? When you really think about that, we required a bond and never called it. We had to be requiring the bond because we was assuming something, and I'm not trying to,
I agree.
if it wasn't on that list, then I agree we shouldn't.
I agree about
Down
that.
the road,
I agree about
there's
that
issues
as
there.
well, is that's something to study on this. That's why I'm saying not tonight, because the county does have some responsibility when they don't use the own safeguards that they have in place. So that is an additional problem. But for tonight, I'm not.
No, I agree.
When I looked at it, 7,000, that is not what I didn't even think about
I understand.
redoing that. And the road looks pretty good except for the bad spots in it. And it would last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years. I mean, I made the second trip over there to look at it.
It might be the thing we need to do. I just write this minute for tonight. I think I'm not prepared tonight to do this one.
Have we done any repairs on the road we've taken in that manner?
No, the only one that we have taken that would have had any repairs to it is, so far as Parkway Place, and there was an estimate of roughly 5,000, that we were handing a check for 5,000. At the time we accepted the deed, the only other one that will require repairs that we know is, Caribbean Village, and that's Caribbean Village Drive, which was the 120, I'm trying to know off the top of my head, maybe 150,000. We got a check for 100. We haven't actually received it because it's due here in the next couple of weeks, I think.
What they did,
The difference in the money was what we traded for with Mr. Hutchison on the money that we owed him. So any repairs that we've done so far have really cost the county nothing to this point. The next two that you have on your list on further down were on that list that Commissioner Jones was referring to. I mean, you have an estimate there of zero. There's zero repairs in the particular development.
I agree with Commissioner Young, that we need to follow up. If this individual still keeps conducting business, we need to.
Well, that's the a legal question because it's the same principle of a different corporation, and all corporations, I mean, they're legally.
And that's something I don't know. Is that the case? Is it a different corporation now? I mean, that's,
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know what businesses, using, how this was done. We can take a look at it.
Yeah, that's something we get a legal opinion, written legal
Take
opinion.
a look at it.
And in this
We can look at
particular,
whether the person is the principal.
The other, unless we could put something in an ordinance somewhere that we could create that bridge. The other thing is, right now, the tax commissioner has the legal right to sell that road for unpaid property tax.
and they're all unpaid property taxes.
Hasn't she agreed not to not do that?
Kind of verbally.
Well, if she wants to sell it, somebody wants it.
I don't think you want to go down that route, but.
Well, it's just like the developer owns it now, and will do nothing with it. So if somebody else buys it, I mean, we don't own it yet. How many of them do we not own? We think we need to own them? I've been fighting to own most of them that are in good condition, so.
But before we realized that she actually sold 2 roads, we were able to get those back.
But if they're privately owned, they're privately owned, whether it's by the original developer or if it's by somebody else that buys it.
And I don't know of any place in Georgia, but I can cite you a location in South Carolina, somebody bought a road for taxes and then turned it into a toll road.
Well, those are the problems that we inherit.
Sheriff, you need a toll road?
I've got some other roads I'd like to fix it.
Can't imagine anybody wants to do those repairs. But, like I said, it may be something we need to do. I just think we need to do exactly what we wrote. Do a list that creates no problem first and study this one. That's my only point.
And we need to give you an update on that, Mr. Jones. We have been working on it slowly. We have made some headway. We're not completely done, but George had an update at one time. I don't know if I have one handy, but we'll get that, an update on where we're at on that original list. I believe there were 20 subdivisions on the original list, and we've probably gotten better than half of them.
So, what's the board's wishes? We have a deed that we can get signed at the present time without having to go through condemnation to get these roads. Do you want to move on this? Do you want to table it and think about it for a month, 2 months, whatever? Or do you want to vote no? I need a motion.
I'd be inclined to try to ask legal counsel for a written opinion on the questions that we've come up with.
Sure.
We can decline it tonight or table it. That's up to however you guys feel.
We can table it to the next month. We have a month to figure out something on it.
I'd rather table it to the first meeting in May instead of the second. We only have 1 meeting in April. Give it plenty of time to do it.
First meeting in May.
First meeting in May, if that's the board's wish.
I make a motion to table the first meeting in May.
I'll second.
You got that date?
It's May the 5th.
May 5th. Motion and a second, table this until May 5th. In the meantime, get some legal decisions. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. First item of new business, consideration to approve to proclaim April 21st, 2015 as Effingham Champions Day. Mr. Clarence,
Good afternoon.
how are you, sir?
Clarence Morgan, Reggie Ratton. Amazing, in the last 9 months, I've been here 3 times for this same issue. It's been a long time prior to that, but we had a basketball team that came in second in the GRPA state tournament and won the district. And now I proclaim April 21st as Champion Day to recognize this group of young men. And this will be 3rd one in 9 months, which is great.
You know the only thing wrong with that, Clarence? It's not night times in 9 months.
That's right.
That would make you good.
Yeah.
proclamation?
We'll read the proclamation on that day.
Yes, sir. And I'll invite them here. Mrs. Stephanie, give me a time.
I make a motion that we approve alternative number 1 and proclaim April 21st as Effingham Champions Day and read the proclamation at that time.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Thank you, sir. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
See you on the 21st. Next item, consideration to approve December's pay application for the Sheriff's Office project.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure if it was actually ratified in the motion, but it was discussed that we would bring the next pay application to the board, so we didn't want to make this payment. This is a regular progress payment, but the county will still be holding $45,314. I had correspondence with the sheriff on March 5th and again this morning, and he is okay with making this payment so long as we're retaining that $45,314.
We still have minor issues.
Very minor. The largest one is an air conditioning pan that's been modified twice, and it still tends to leak.
So is somebody telling me there's still been leaks? Has it been the air conditioning leaking
That has been the air conditioning.
through the roof and ceiling or not?
Not through the roof, no ma'am. This is the inside unit.
Okay.
The drain pan was not watertight. They have a new project superintendent. Andrew has left our project and he's moved on to another project. They brought in Brent Scoggins. I think that's his name, but he's been here every day since the transition, which is better than Andrew because he just came out once or twice a week, check things. And the only other issue is I think a lock that's on order.
I'm sorry?
A lock that's on order.
I believe I met him last time.
Did you?
Yeah. What number are we approving? I see.
128, 181.
And maintaining 45?
Yes, ma'am. 314. And you've got a copy of the warranty punch list as well. And there's 1, 2, 3 items.
I'd have to look back, but this is the same number that we already talked about, on substantial completion.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
All right. Motion?
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Consideration to approve job description for animal control.
Good evening. In our continued realignment of animal control, we have 2 job descriptions in front of you tonight. This is part of a cost-sharing piece also that we're doing. The first one is the Director of Animal Control and Facilities Maintenance. This is a brand new job description for you to see, and that's going to be cost-shared between Department 22 and Department 14. And additionally, we are actually titling the second job description. This used to be for this, and it's kennel coordinator. It used to be the kennel supervisor, and that's basically just a retitle. We double checked everything again through the ADA and the performance aptitudes and those functions, and nothing has changed. And I've attached both job descriptions for you to see, and I'm just asking approval to add these in to our job descriptions that are approved to the county, and I'm recommending them both be approved.
I just got one little thing. I want to see if the other board members are comfortable in adding a couple of sentences on here. Under responsibilities on the first page, the first paragraph.
For which description, Ms. Green? The Director of Animal Control? That one, okay.
Yes, and maybe, are we trying to do both at one time?
Yeah, I was just going to put 2 through, but we can talk about both of them separately if you'd like.
Yeah. Under the first one, under responsibilities, first paragraph, at the end of it, just add, and this could be considered like goes without saying, but when that's the case, it's just better to say. So I wanted to add as specified or required within the county financial policy. That just makes it clear that
For the acquisition of donations. Is that what you're
For that whole, I can read the whole thing. Assist with fiscal budget of assigned departments, accepts and verifies fees, prepares receipts, prepares deposits. It's all about financial statements. So
Yeah.
at the end of it, I wanted to add as specified or required within the county financial policy.
No problem.
Because there's policies to adhere to, and I'm just stating that.
That can be easily added.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
And then under monitors revenue, maintenance. Modifies procedures within the SOP document. So that if somebody's gonna modify a procedure, they can't modify to anything they want. They can
No,
modify
if those SOPs come in front of you, that's the SOP for the shelter itself. And you would have, that would have to go back in front of Eric again and Elizabeth, and it would come in front of you before they're all approved.
So to be clear, I just wanted to add the words within the SOP document after modified procedures.
Okay.
If nobody has a problem with that. It just makes it more clear.
Okay.
Where are you at?
Page 1, the first one was the first paragraph, and the second one was the second paragraph.
Second.
Yep. Monitors revenues and expenditures in relation to annual budget and regular review of modified procedures within the SOP document to maintain an efficient, effective, or assigned departments.
I've added both of those in, and I can get that in, because this is a draft for approval, so I can add those in if you're all comfortable with that.
If everybody's okay with that, I'll just make that as adding that with my motion.
Sure.
All right, have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Second. And a second. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
I know she's reading it, I understood what she said.
I thought I missed something funny. I needed something. All right, review of year-end 2014 retirement plan quarterly update.
Yes. We are, of course, ending of 2014. We're still in the first quarter of 2015. Those numbers aren't available yet, but these are the final numbers for the retirement plan from January 1st, 2014 through December 31st of 2014. Your 457B plan distributions were made to retirees and terminated participants in the amount of $405,739. Your contributions were made by active participants. They were in the amount of $435,135. And the overall investments are valued at $3,689,673. And your active participation rate still remains in the 80s at 81.81%. Your 401A plan, also going from January 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014. Distributions were made to retirees and terminated participants in the amount of $233,879. Contributions by the county on behalf of the employees as a match was $220,325. Your value as of December 31st, 2013 was $4,726,935, and then December 31st, 2014 value is $4,982,869, in which the year-to-date return is an 8.39% on the positive side. The total participant vested full value is $4,715,544. Your participation rate in the 401 is 91.92%. Forfeitures were at $29,919. As far as the defined benefit plan goes, as of December 31st, 2013, the investment portfolio value was $7,753,379. And in December 31st, 2014, the investment portfolio value was $8,569,833. The year-to-date return is 7.61%, and the 12-month return was 7.61 as well. Our defined benefit goal is to return at 5% a year in order to meet the funding requirements on an actuary basis, which we have met. and the asset allocation is still sitting in line with the Commissioner's investment policy statement of a moderate investment objective. The current allocations in equities, you have $5,516,897. In your fixed income, you have $2,438,870. And in your cash balance, you have $614,066. Total value is $8,005,69,833. We have put the indices on the side. You'll see the Dow TR at positive 10, the S&P total return at a plus 13.70, the NASDAQ comp at a plus 14.8, the MSCI World Index, that's at a negative 3.9, and the Barclays US Aggregate at a positive 5.27. I do have Miss Jenny Nichols here. She does need to just review some things with you as we approach into the next quarter, as we look at the review fund and a rebalance. I'm going to have her go over that briefly before you, so you have that information before we move forward with any other decisions.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Jenny.
Jenny Nichols for the record. I do have some handouts if you would like them. These are going to be the overview because I believe on your staff report that we are requesting a workshop. Is that correct? Yes. I don't know. May I pass these out? Okay, need 12. No. You might need that. These are just notes that I wanted to discuss with you. And as of 2014, we started of the year, there was a transition of the bull market. And right now we're looking at skepticism turning into optimism during that year, which it did because the U.S. economy, there was some growth, but we talked about it being moderate in speed and a pace. So we weren't looking for a crazy, wonderful year, but we had a moderate year. The Federal Reserve would start ending tapering and start the investors into the tightening process, which we're seeing that as we speak. Also, U.S. equities would grow higher as the confidence slowly improved, which did happen in 2014. What we expect in 2015, we do expect the markets and the investors to mature, and this year U.S. economy growth should shift into a little bit higher gear, and as most of the segments of the economy will improve. Not all of them, but some of them. We do expect inflation to remain low, but yet we do expect interest rates to rise. Okay, so I'll talk about that in a minute. Corporate earnings should be strong. Outside of the U.S., growth should improve in most regions. You are internationally invested, so we need to discuss some of those things. But more importantly, U.S. equities or stocks should be very strong and more reliable. We forecast another good year for the equities, as I just mentioned, but with the important caveat that in the bull markets tend to experience more volatility. So we need to be prepared for that this year. And how we do that, most of the gains in the equity market should be with technologies, healthcare, and telecommunications sectors. The reason that I want the workshop is, one, we need to not just keep continuing to rebalance, but we need to compare where we are in the markets today to your investment policy statement. There's a few things that have transpired and that we expect to transpire that we might need to look at against your IPS, okay? With that, your risk tolerance and your time horizon, we are good in the defined benefit plan. We're overfunded by 135%, so we're good in that respect, but you still want to protect what you have and you want to make sure that liability is still met. With the risk, you may not need to take as much risk, but how much return do you really want, okay? The potential, we want to look at potentially overweighting the U.S. equities, okay? We want to decrease the international equities in certain areas. okay? And these are just things for discussion. You guys make the decisions. These are just things I think that you need to discuss.
I'm sorry, did you say increase or decrease?
Which one?
The international.
Decrease, potentially. You don't have a very big percentage in this, but it's still something that we need to look at with most of the markets internationally, with the Europe side of it, with all that's going on with it and their rates and their bonds and so on and so forth. But the Japanese and Chinese really were kind of flat last year. So I expected a little bit more last year from the Chinese, but we just didn't get it. Okay, so we want to look at that. We want to look at increasing the high yield investment grade. Investment grade's important in the corporate bond exposure than what you already have. I want you to consider looking at the PIMCO bond funds and whether we decrease it or eliminate it. The reason for this, and in your IPS, you actually have the mutual fund companies have to be structurally organized and solid, okay? And I'm not saying that PIMCO is not solid, they are. However, there was a major, major change in the last quarter of last year. And that's where Bill Gross, who was the co-founder back in 1971, left on bad terms from PIMCO and went over to Janus and started the unconstrained fund over there. His heir apparent also left. That doesn't mean that you don't have what your requirement says, that you have to have solid 2-year, managers that are actually within the company and have been there. They have to have a certain amount of history and tenure, which all of them do, that are managing your current funds. But it is something that we need to discuss. And so that if you want to keep it, that's fine. If you don't, we need to look at other options. Okay? And the last is to review the cash flow. We want to decrease your cash position percentage. Right now you're around 7%. Totally with bonds and cash, you're just above 35%. Right now we want to be fully invested as much as possible potentially, but that is a decision that you guys need to look at against the IPS. And that's the reasons for the workshop. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
So what we're looking at this evening is, first of all, not to make any changes today. We are requesting a workshop, possibly your April meeting or your first meeting in May, and then to be able to make adjustments to the investment policy quickly thereafter, based upon your decisions.
For now's purposes, you need a motion on not making any changes for today.
Correct, and that's the moderate investment objective where we are today. And then to go over everything that she just gave you in the list to see if there's any decisions that you would like to make or changes you would like to make. And that's why we've requested the workshop. We do this about once a year, if you remember, just to go over your values and to make sure everybody's on the same page.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve those changes?
I make a motion that we approve no changes at this time.
Motion and second, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried.
I presume.
Workshop. Anybody got a preference?
Did you say how much?
April or first meeting in May?
Did you say how much time you're going to need?
I think that we can probably knock it out in 30 minutes.
So we need to come in here at 4 o'clock. First meeting in May works better for me as it works for y'all.
May 5th meeting?
May 5th, 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item, consideration to approve to adopt a partial comprehensive plan update submitted to the Department of Community Affairs.
Yes, sir. The partial plan update was brought to you in October to approve transmitting it to DCA. DCA sent it back with comments. We had a very unpleasant and lengthy process of going back and forth between DCA, the CRC, and ourselves locally. Finally got that resolved, and we were able to get this approved in February, and it's now before you for a resolution to adopt the 5-year or the partial plan update.
Basically, you went back and forth with them and made whatever changes.
Yeah, the CRC was supposed to offer some guidance. This kind of came up at the last minute in August. We had a very short meeting with CRC, had brought it to you folks in September to get it through in October. It turns out the instructions from CRC were incomplete, to say the least. So we had to make changes. And then, for whatever reason, we lost communication with DCA for about a month and a half in December. They finally got back to me in January, and I was able to complete the process and get approval.
But we met whatever objectives they've all
Correct.
put forth.
How long do we have? One of these things that stuck out: conduct comprehensive review of zoning ordinances and land use regulations. Currently underway. Yes. Explanation: waiting until comprehensive plan is updated to be started in 2008. We started it in 2008,
Yes,
and it's not finished.
it's never finished.
Kind of a little living document.
I would say our zoning ordinance is a living document, certainly. Yeah.
Because it says explanation for postponed or not accomplished project.
Yeah. And there were, part of the snag here was there were some items that we thought we weren't going to get to in the next 5 years that we took off of there, and they said, no, you have to leave them on there, but just put not accomplished. So we put them back in, finally got that worked out. And then,
I'd say there's things on there that we need to work on for sure. But as far as adoption of the document, if we've got their comments, then we can do that. And then
But this is one of those check things that Department of Community Affairs says
we have to
you
do
will
it.
do to be a qualified government.
Yes, and unlike the original comp plan, the original comp plan is a big process. It involves a lot of public meetings, involves a lot of input from multiple parties. This was, I thought, kind of a busy work, to be perfectly honest, but we did finally get it done. And Rankin and Springfield had the same issues we did. A very frustrating process.
Something government decided needed to be done, gives the directives, but don't really tell you how to do it.
Correct. There was
You
the
do
original.
the best of your ability.
When we did the original comp plan, there was no partial update coming up. This came about, I guess, in the last year, and then we got poor instructions on how to handle it.
But with this approval, we're,
Yes, we adopt the update. We're done for till 2017 or 19, I think. I've got to look at when it's due again for the comp plan. I think 19. Yeah, this is 15, so.
have a motion.
make a motion that we adopt the partial comprehensive plan update as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve a mutual rescission and release agreement with J.L. Harden Incorporated DBA Harco Construction.
Mr. Chairman, I will step down since I did step down originally on this one.
So noted.
On February 17th, the board awarded the contract to J.L. Hardin, DBA Harco Construction for the construction of a fire station in Tusculum. And prior to, I guess, awarding that contract, prior to bidding it, he had actually asked if it was okay if he bid this job prime. I answered him yes, as long as he could have licenses for every single person that was on the job and on the job. Prior to the board awarding that, the question was posed to someone in the Attorney General's office who answered basically the same way. The board awarded it, after which we received some written correspondence from the Secretary of State indicating that maybe we should not have done that, that all of the documents had to be in a GC's name rather than in a utility contractor, as the case is here, with him subbing a portion of that work to a GC for the construction of the building, pardon me, that licensing. I've requested written confirmation from both the Attorney General's office and Secretary of State, and as to date, I've heard absolutely nothing back. The county attorney and I have looked at this, we've read the law, studied it, and I will say that I can find absolutely nothing that specifically says that what we did was incorrect, but I can also find nothing that specifically says what we did is correct. That being said, all parties involved feel like to avoid any kind of implications of wrongdoing here, the best thing to do is just rescind this contract and award it to somebody that is a GC, thereby, not getting anyone into any issues here. So what staff is asking the board to do is just that, to rescind the previous contract award, and then the next item on your bill will be to reissue that to the second bidder.
So since it's clear like we're going to do this to be cautious.
Yes, ma'am, that would be my interpretation of the events.
Motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Commissioner Kiefer, I think you can rejoin us. You don't have a conflict on the next item, do you? Okay. Next item is a consideration to approve a contract notice to proceed for Tusculum Fire Station with another contract.
Yes, sir. As we just stated, this contract was previously awarded to Hardin. We just rescinded that. To refresh your memory, request for quote was sent out. We received 11 bids on that, I do believe. We awarded it to J.L. Hardin. This Altamaha Building Systems is the second bidder on that particular list. We do have verified and received copies of their payment performance bonds. Of course, returning a bid bond with a particular bid. And we have their licensing and so forth is in hand, and I think probably is in this package, but we definitely have it in hand. And again, there were 11 bidders, these are the second ones. So we would ask that y'all once again award this contract so we can get started on this fire station.
This one cost us $28,000 more than it was for Harco.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll start one more time. Next item, consideration to accept a bid and approve an agreement for the surplus house located at 1752 Georgia Highway 21, south, map number S131, parcel number 8, which is the recreation property.
Yes, sir. December 2014, Effingham County, the board voted to purchase a particular property for, as you stated, for the use of a recreation facility. We inherited along with that a house that is located on that property today. We have no beneficial use for that particular house. It doesn't fit in our development structure. So it was surplus by the board on January 20th, 2015. We advertised that in all the normal places. We received one bid, and that bid was from Theodore Board Ministries in the amount of $4,000. They provided earnest money with that bid. They have the funds in hand and would like to move as quickly as possible to get the house off of the property. And we have asked them to enter into or execute a hold harmless agreement as they are on the property working, just to hold us harmless for any damages they may incur to themselves while on the property. That agreement is in here, so we're asking you to award the bid and authorize the chairman to sign that hold harmless agreement. And the agreement was, I believe, written by the attorney, or at least heavily influenced. Either way, it has been approved by them.
Is there anything in this agreement that says they have to get it off by a certain time, if not, we do whatever?
In the bid, yes, sir. There was a time frame, I believe 30 days. I don't have it in front of me. But there was a time frame in the actual bid itself.
That's the only thing I saw. I just like to have some type of a, so it's not open-ended.
They don't move it or they don't tear it down?
No, sir, they're going to move, it's my understanding. And again, it was in the bid, however, I don't, it was in the bid documents, I don't know how that actually holds them.
Chairman, you want wordage added to the
Is there,
hold harmless agreement that requires them to have it done by a certain date?
is there a reason to do that? Does council feel that it would be prudent to have that put in this one?
I don't see any harm in adding it,
Yeah, I can see it.
but deadline in the whole harmless.
Or at least wording that states that they will abide by the terms of the bid documents or forfeit.
Right.
Something that gives us a timeline. If they don't move it, it can't just sit there forever waiting on it.
Was the timeline 30 days?
I'm trying to find it, Commissioner. Honestly, I'm having trouble remembering. I'm trying to find the document now.
Well, I don't have a problem with adding wordage to the hold harmless agreement that says that we require to be moved in such, whatever day we think that's reasonable, as long as it's in line with that.
I would prefer purchaser to agree to abide by all terms of the bid documents. And if they don't, then they relinquish ownership and we can dispose of in other means. They lose their money.
If we know that there is a time or a day of removal in it, then we can say purchaser agrees to abide by all terms of the bid document, including the date of removal, or they forfeit their right to the property.
We would have the authority, given weather or something, they could, we could. Sure.
We can always do that, no matter
That's right.
we want to.
For what it's worth, that's the deed within 30 days.
30 bids?
Yes. Must be moved to county property, but it does not say or else. It just says it needs to be done within 30 days.
That's right, and that's why I was saying, if you want it to have any teeth, you need to add the language of, or they forfeit their right to the, you gotta have that in. 30 days of what does that say?
Upon,
30
bids.
acceptance, which will be today, the date that y'all sell the offer. So they have 30 days from today.
I certainly want this board to accept this offer. I just want to be sure that it's not.
We don't want 2 years there to dispute of what we can do with this.
Right.
I think it's fine to have a date on there, and if there's some emergency problem that comes up, then we can always extend it if we need to.
However, council can put it in there if this board so chooses.
In the hold harmless agreement,
Yes.
Appropriate for
Yes, he's saying yes.
Yeah, you can do it in whole harmless. I think you can do it in the notice to proceed, you know.
Yeah, they're going to hold us harmless if we can dispose of it in other means.
If we add this to hold harmless and we both sign it,
Right.
it's required.
All right, can I have a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the bid as presented and we authorize the hold harmless agreement with additional words to be added that the purchaser agrees to abide by all the terms of the bid document, including the date of removal of the house, or they forfeit the right to the house.
Time for performance. Rather than date.
30 days from today's
Purchaser
date.
agrees to abide by all terms of bid documents, including time for performance.
That's not
I said business days, that doesn't count the weekends, does it?
or they forfeit the right, yeah. Okay. That's my motion.
Everybody good with the motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Right. Next item, consideration to approve to appoint members to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th district seats of the planning board.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, on March 3rd, 2015, the board approved revisions to the ordinance and the bylaws for the planning board. The revision transformed the board makeup from 8 members to 5 members who will be representation for the 5 districts of the commissioners. The seats of the at-large members were removed. The term has expired for the 3rd and 5th districts. The 4th district seat was held by a previous member, Tim Effingham, who officially vacated that seat on September 2014. The appointment to this seat is set to expire December of 2017. We did have Jasper Lee to submit a member profile application. The current member for the 5th district is Peter Higgins, and I believe that Mr. Deloach is making a recommendation for Mr. Dave Burns. Mr. Deloach is making a recommendation for James Stansel, and Commissioner Kiefer is making a recommendation for Mr. Peter Higgins, who's a current board member.
Okay, so I'm going to get it straight. Commissioner Kiefer for Peter Higgins, which is the 5th, is already serving.
Mm-hmm.
And can you name the other 2 again, please?
Dave Burns, he's already serving as well as chairman at large member. He will now represent the 3rd district seat.
Okay.
And Mr. J.D. Stansel for the 4th district.
Okay.
And his term will expire on 2017, a couple years prior to
Okay.
All right, without exception, can we vote on these together?
Allow it, you know.
Somebody wants to do one of them all.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of Jamie Stansel for the 4th district on the planning board, Peter Higgins for the 5th district on the planning board, Dave Burns for the 3rd district on the planning board.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to authorize the chairman to execute an application for a traffic signal permit to be located at Highway 17 at Marlow and Sandhill Roads.
Department of Transportation is completing a traffic engineering study at the intersection of 17 and Marlow Road, and has determined that a flashing beacon will be best to be installed there. This is one of the, it will mount on top of the stop sign. It's not like the one at Blue Jay and 17, it's on a separate pole with flashers. And they have sent us a permit application for that, which requires the chairman's signature. And there are a couple of conditions of that permit, and the gist of which is Effingham can have to fund the cost of installing the beacons, and they never did get back with me as far as the cost for that. But what I will say is that the ones we did at 17 and Blue Jay, which again were slightly different, they didn't mount on the top, they were freestanding with flashing beacons. The cost for those were $15,000 for the 2. So $7,500 a piece. So I would suspect these are somewhat less than that, but as a placeholder, I would say that's a number that we've spent in the past.
About 3 of that, if I remember, was just to the power plant.
No, sir, that wasn't included. That was yes, sir, that was in addition to the 15 to get service there. Now, these are the ones that they're suggesting, which brings me to point number 2, which is Effingham County is responsible for our energy costs. But the ones that they suggest are solar. They would mount on the top, have little solar panels, so there would be no service, so we wouldn't pay the additional service charge to the power company, the $3,000 or whatever it was, and there would not be an energy cost because there would be a solar light. Is what they have suggested to me.
And tell me again, where exactly will these sit? On Marlow Road?
On Marlow Road, yes, sir. On Marlow and
Marlow and
Sandhill.
Sandhill.
Yes, sir. At the approaches to 17, and they would sit on top of the stop signs that's currently mounted. They just go on top of them, little flasher.
So it'd be 4.
It's a great question. I'm assuming 2, because there should only be 2 stop signs, and we double indicated.
Double indicated.
I'm envisioning just, they didn't share that with me, I'll be honest with you. They sent this application and asked to sign it. And I have not seen the report. The report's not been issued yet either to indicate that.
Well, if we need it, we need it.
And the permit doesn't say one way or the other, there's 2 or 4.
And while it's on my mind, do we still have those beacons sitting over there in the fence of Georgia Pacific?
Yes. They were fenced in, can't figure out how to get to them.
Well, they won't let us in? Sure, all we do is ask.
Probably.
We probably just need to get them. It's one of the things that you don't think about unless it comes up.
Yes, sir, and they probably don't need current code, and I don't think we can wire them back, because they're now to have separate panels, and that was part of the problem. We
Oh.
had 17 and Blue Jay, these had the boxes mounted to the poles and all. I don't think they meet any current code. I don't know there's a whole lot of value to them.
Okay.
Well, I actually like the point of it, we're able to obtain these on solar power and we don't have a recurring bill. I like that. It's a positive.
Can we approve something though without knowing what the cost is?
Well, at this point, you're only approving a permit for an application. If they grant the application and just choose not to do it, you don't have to install. You're just getting a permit to be able to install.
And I'm asking y'all to allow me to sign this permit application.
Yes, sir, and that's all it is a permit to be able to install. And again, if we get the permit, you choose not to do it, then you don't have to.
You ready?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll hush.
Make a motion, we approve on target, so you can sign.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, consideration to authorize the chairman, back up. Approve a deed to accept infrastructure in Pleasant Hill and Buttonfield Plantation subdivision.
As promised in the teaser earlier, these are subdivisions that were on that list that was approved back November 5th, 2013, the date I was searching for. And there are taxes owed in both of these roads. Pleasant Hill subdivision has a little over 1,000 in taxes. And Buckfield has closer to 3,000, 2848 in taxes owed there. There are no repairs necessary. You have an email from Public Works indicating as much. They are both served by Middle Georgia water and private septic systems. Again, we're just following up on the list that y'all previously approved, trying to slowly go down that list and obtain these particular developments. You have plats in here, those developments. So yes, it'd be authorization for the chairman to sign the deed and pay the taxes associated with those.
Who's the developer on the?
I'm sorry?
I was wondering who the developer.
Also, how you say it was on Arthur on
But this was on our list and has no repair necessary?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Both of those statements are correct.
Motion?
Make a motion to approve alternate number 1. Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Turn number 1, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to allow the chairman to execute a construction materials testing proposal.
We have been working on trying to find some dates, I apologize, but the board previously approved a contract with Integrated Science and Engineering to provide topographical, hydrographical phase 1 and a reclamation plan for the site common on Atlas that the county owns, the old Atlas sand mine. The conclusion of that was preparation of estimates to reclaim that site, to slope the banks to 3 to 1 and get it to where we could release the state mining permit anywhere from $2.4 to $3.5 million to do that work. Needless to say, we don't believe we need to move forward with that anytime soon. So the next question was, is there any usable material left in that mine that the county could either harvest and sell or lease to someone to sell or to do something with? To answer that question, we need to have a geotechnical engineer go out and do some testing and look at that material. Now, let me just tell you what we're trying to do, because there is water in there. We want to go off to the side of it, have Public Works use their excavator to dig a hole and have a geotechnical engineer on site kind of test the material that comes out of it, because there's no good way of harvesting material below the water. That's 7 to 10 feet deep. So the cost to perform this testing really depends on the number of trips and the tests that are performed. This is much like the testing that was done on the jail and the jail and sheriff's office project, where they give us a price for each particular test, and we go out depending on what they do. It's a lump sum fee of $350 and a couple of $50 per hour. The total cost probably will not exceed $1,500 on this. But there is a authorization for a proposal to get started. So basically what we're asking for is for authorization for the chairman to sign this proposal that will allow us to get some of that material tested to determine if there's anything in there. And then depending on the outcome of this test, we'll come back to y'all with next steps in this process.
And I had asked for this.
If I understood correctly, basically, you're saying the material that's there is a possibility it could be very valuable. And if that's the case, then if we know that and have evidence of it, then possibly whether we chose to try to harvest it or if we chose to sell it and have bids, we'd be more inclined to have reasonable bids come in with people having the knowledge that there's material there where they can make money. So rather than just sitting there vacant, it seems worthwhile to spend this money for this testing to know what we do have in value. It's basically almost like getting an appraisal.
Yes, ma'am.
That.
Yes, ma'am. But someone would, I would to continue with the sale, which, as y'all recall, y'all surplus this property. We got absolutely no bids back on it. I met one interested party over there, and after looking at the numbers to do the reclamation, he became disinterested. So it would do one of two things. It gives us some opportunities, to do that. Either we can put it back out for sale with the knowledge that there is X amount of material there, or we can lease it and get some, money back off of it to use to pay for the reclamation. We may lease it to someone with the understanding that they have to reclaim it, but it does give us some options.
It's needed for us to know what is our best alternative to do with the property. And I see that under funding it says should not exceed $1,500. Where is that coming from? Is it being paid out of Foster, or what will it be paid out of?
It would come from the same line item that was previously approved by the board. There's still some left on there. That contract was never built out 100%, because when they got to that point, I don't know that they really finished up the reclamation plan to its fullest extent. That they knew there was really no need to do so.
Funding's already there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, the county needs a dirt pit. I mean, if we dig dirt in it, I mean, it might be
Might be.
the county keep it or keep part of it or something.
Yes, sir. And again, I don't know if we need 130 acres worth of a dirt pit, but absolutely, we could, possibly work that out as part of the deal, that we could use it for material. But first off, we have to know if it's usable or not, because what I don't know with no history of the site is why did they stop mining, other than the fact that we acquired property. Were they just at a level that there was no more good material, or did we just acquire the profits where they left it?
Is it currently zoned industrial?
say the best case scenario, I mean, police at the
Yeah,
same
that's
time they get in there, they start harvesting, and they leave it, everything sloped and all, so we can close that mining permit out. Then we've got a sellable piece of property.
Yes, sir.
Or usable piece of property.
Correct.
It could take us years to get to that point, but at least we're doing something with it. I think $1,500 is a small amount to pay after all of what's invested in it, to see if there's something we can do with it. Give me a motion, someone.
Make a motion to approve the term.
Second. Motion and a second, all in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Next item, consideration to approve change order number 1 for design build services for a water line extension.
Mr. Chairman, in all full disclosure, this isn't really a change order which y'all approving. This work has already been done. In the execution of this project, and we back up, this is the extension of the water line down Blue Jay that y'all approved, I believe back in December of last year, December 9th, yes. That's due by March 31st contractually to service Blue Jay Estates, I believe was the name of the subdivision, that y'all cost share with the developer on that to bring the line down. When the contractor got on site, there was an existing 16-inch butterfly valve that they were to tie into. Upon getting there, they found out that valve was seized, it would not work. Between the contractor and our own internal staff, they acquired a new one and had the contractor put it on. And in all honesty, I received a phone call, but by the time I got to it and back into work, had already been done. So there wasn't really an opportunity to say stop, we need the board to approve that. So in all fairness, the work's already been done. Just yes, sir, for full disclosure. But it was monitored by our own internal staff, and it was county staff that directed them to do this basically. And I guess at the time I felt like they had no other choice. So what they're really charging us for is the labor to install, and it is a 16-inch valve, it's rather large. They wouldn't pick it up and install it. So
We purchased the valve, I guess?
yes, sir.
I have no problem voting to approve it, understanding what happened out there. But also, is the like 1,500 when you run into basically an emergency situation like that doesn't work, do you guys not have the ability to, even if we didn't make this, that it would be okay? And I understand if you want to cover it, but I do want to know that there are times you're going to need to have this type of ability, and I want to be sure you do.
I think the purchase authority gives you, but this is a specific contract given to do a specific job, and this is cost that's relevant to this specific job. I think they're just wanting to make the board aware.
More than anything, but yes, ma'am, the purchasing policy does give us the authority to make emergency purchases, and we have done, unfortunately, several lately in water and sewer. The last one being this past Sunday. We had another house with a lateral that was plugged up that we had to make a call, that we got a contract out on Sunday to do some work, and I can tell you all that in the meeting, but we have unfortunately done more than we should have recently.
When you run into an emergency like that, you don't have a choice. I just want to be sure that you weren't stuck in a situation where you might have to do it and then get your hands slapped.
No, if you recall, we added that to our financial policies.
I thought so.
Yes, we're covered.
We are with the contractor sending in, and yeah, I guess enforced the easiest way I think.
I don't know if I just want to be sure.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, on this item, somebody give me a motion, please, to approve it.
Make a motion to approve offer number 1.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. All right, next item is item number 15 that was added in your packets. Stephanie, you want to talk?
You can, as you stated at the beginning of the meeting, it's the standard that we approve every year, declaring April as Donate Life Month in Effingham County. I believe we have 8,000 people who are registered to donate blood in Effingham County.
Any questions? Motion.
Motion to approve approve alternative one.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. All right, item number 16, RDA appointments.
You can kind of talk among yourselves on this one. It is my understanding that there's only one new appointment to be considered. The remaining are reappointments. And that would be Mr. Sway Ron, the new appointment for the 11th GMD. Mr. David Harris will be the reappointment for 1559. Mr. Dick Knowlton to the 10th, Mr. Glenn Weston to the 12th, and Chap Bennett to the 9th.
Is there an urgency to get this done tonight? Do we know?
Their actual appointments ended in December.
December 29th.
Their attorney feels that they are able to serve until their appointments are changed or whatever.
I agree. Hold over, they serve until their replacements.
Just not a huge fan of having Jimmy Jennifer.
My appointee got sick and he had to leave, so he sent me a letter, so I found somebody else to do it. And I had the information for the last meeting, and we didn't do it, so anyway, I suggested doing it today. There's I don't have anybody on the board at all.
I'm in agreement that I don't think any of us would like to add to the agenda unnecessarily without the item being advertised for the public in case they want to make comments. But since we're not changing anybody, that's, it's probably not as maybe concerning. And then again, like with Commissioner Weber, and having someone that has had to leave for illness kind of creates a need.
But there is a need for them to be able to have, since Dennis served as their chairman, they really need to be able to elect and get an active chairman. There's things going on, need a full board.
And if we don't do it today, it'll be a month before we meet again. So that's.
And I had some concerns about the way their bylaws read, but I went out there and looked, court decisions back in '04 did change these bylaws that are printed that you may be looking at. Are really not concurrent with the court's finding back in '04. The city board members at that time terms all expired, or the 5 militia districts expired in December of '06, and then started serving 4-year terms from that point forward. So the part of this bylaws, if you read it, that states that they serve concurrent with the terms of the governing authority appointing them is not correct.
Where are you obtaining that?
That information, I went out and read the court decision, and Stephanie got a copy of
This
it.
was coming out there.
So is that just something that needs to be changed or updated or added to our?
They're not our bylaws.
It's their bylaws. It's their, and their bylaws, it's in their book as the court decision, but it's not on this printed. Because I had concerns trying to figure out, and the way we appoint from the 5 commissioners is kind of just our way of doing things. It's not really.
I was told we were mandated,
Well,
back when, we were told we were mandated to do it this way.
you have a court order that requires one from each militia district. The board among the board members is, I guess, informally
Decided,
agreed
yeah.
to assign a commissioner to a militia district because the boundaries don't coincide. And unfortunately, we can't do anything about it because the idea was created by a constitutional amendment that can no longer be amended. So you can't go back and change it anymore.
But ultimately, it's a vote by sixties,
Yeah.
if it was done constitutional, is that correct?
That's
So,
all of it is updated.
but it's constitutional, that's the problem, it's not easily updated.
It's not easily updated.
It takes a constitutional.
Well, they don't do local constitutional amendments
Anymore.
So that's basically what they've done, is they've taken the court decision and tacked it onto their bylaws to go back.
What it means is, you probably, when you voted, you probably have a question on a ballot, and it's like some odd county in Georgia, you know, if I were asking me, it's because it was constitutional, and they're trying to change it. It's a statewide.
While you have this can of worms opened, Jack Garvin, by the way, Clio, Georgia. While you have this can of worms open, can we do something about these people receiving these bonuses and all this, and things never happen?
We can't,
Y'all can't.
Our appointees can.
Yeah.
and that would be my goal, that these appointees
I mean, these people,
talk to these appointors.
they've gotten all this money, and we haven't seen any movie studio. I mean, it's bad business, folks.
You ain't got your free tickets yet to the movies?
Huh?
You ain't got any free tickets to the movies yet?
No, don't want any free. I don't want nothing free from it. All I want to do is do the job.
Well, it's not free, I guarantee you, but if you got a ticket that you don't have to pay for, it's not free. For your information, I've gotten phone calls from news media asking me the same type of questions. This board, the only thing that this board can do for the IDA is to make these 5 appointments. That's it. So I say appoint wisely. And try to engage them to do the best job they can, just as the citizens vote to put us here.
I do believe, for whatever it's worth, Mr. Jack, that those appointees are looking very seriously at that at this time.
I hope so.
I think they've heard you.
You need to hear that, man. Not just me.
And that's what, when I refer to you, I'm talking about the citizens of Effingham County.
Any other discussion, questions? I'll call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternate number 1.
A second. It's all their names. Districts.
Declaration with that.
Good motion?
Got a motion by Reggie, and the second was Barry. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly how they, says the chairman shall be the senior officer of the authority.
In their bylaws?
The chairman shall be the senior officer of the authority.
Commission chairman?
No,
The chairman.
Their chairman, whoever they.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Not necessarily anything possible.
It means go back to the legislation they created, and that's the controlling document.
Unless their bylaws gives that officer certain powers, it probably means nothing.
All right, it is what, 6:30? We have planning board presentments at 7 o'clock. Anything else? Got any break? Nothing? No meeting? Any break? All right. Can you do staff reports in 15 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Y'all be back in here at 6:45. We'll get the committee reports done before planning board. What you got, Mr. Toss?
Monthly fire report attached is your monthly fire report for the month of February, as is your senior citizens report. ACCG annual conference, I'm trying to think, they opened up registration, I believe, today, so y'all can now register for your conference. The schedule of those classes is included in this package somewhere.
Last page.
Last page. Next to last page, I added one.
You've done it for us.
This is a different one. It's one being held at Georgia Southern in June.
Sorry.
Not soon. We're already registered for April.
June 4th, 5th. And let me back up to senior citizens. There's also a nice calendar of events in here of things that y'all can do bingo on the 8th if you want. Should you want to get involved in the events, there's actually 3 calendars of stuff in here. Scratch out the 8 board appointments, I just took care of that. The Effingham Parkway PIOH, just remind y'all again, it will be in this building tomorrow from 4 to 6 at the end of the hall here. We'll have that public information drop in. It's not no formal presentation given, although there will be people available to answer questions. The Georgia Trend advertisement that I asked y'all about last time, there is a copy, let's see if I can find it in here, of what was done last time, and it's a very attractive ad. Has our logo on it.
My vote is still no.
Kind of soon it would be. So moving on, Georgia.
Somebody else will have an opinion. I'm just telling you mine.
Yours a line on mine, so I kept going, so.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, same, because I'd like to know Rick has actually asked about it. And it's just an emblem. I asked him about a picture. He said, due to the size, picture wouldn't be able to be.
I agree with you. I agree with Chairman.
We don't need to spend $600 for it.
Okay.
There's nothing else will answer that way. Georgia Prison Wardens Association and Stephanie may have some more insight on this. What it appears to me is they are having a conference, the Georgia Prison Wardens Association, and they're soliciting advertisements in a publication that they provide at that particular event.
No.
And there's different prices for different size ads if y'all are interested.
No. Do they have any creators?
Sir? No.
It doesn't come with a free pass or free get out of jail.
Oh, it doesn't have a free pass, but you want to stay there. The accommodations are very luxurious. Lifelong Learning Academy is the one that I talked about previously. I apologize. The last page that you have in here is the addition Mr. Chief Hodges obtained late this afternoon to where ISO has now recognized the station at Griffin Lake. So insurance companies are now, you can call that station has been recognized. So anybody, if you have contact with a particular gentleman that originally started this dialogue, you can tell him to make sure he checks in with his insurance company. That is now advertising, and we can provide this digital format if you have it, or you get a hard copy for him to provide it, should he need to do so.
So it's up and running.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it's operational. Correct. There's a vehicle in it. We are powers on, and
Your wife feels a call, at least one call out there already, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Awesome.
Main thing is ISO recognizes it, and you can get credit for it. Good work.
you have provided for you a financial report for the month of March. Yes. For the month of February. We have tentatively, we still haven't received the email, have you, from Palmetto?
Not yet.
I'm going to say tentatively still at this point, but we're expecting an email to come in, a public hearing that we will not hold Palmetto Pipeline, the subsidiary of Kinder Morgan will hold on, I believe it's a Thursday, March the 31st of this month. Tuesday.
March 31st.
Tuesday, March 31st.
At 5 o'clock.
From 5 to 7 at the New Ebenezer Retreat Center.
Now,
5 to 7.
we've asked them, but they have not confirmed.
They confirmed via telephone, but we are waiting on an email confirmation so that there's an actual written confirmation that they try to back up from
Right. He did.
before we blast it out here.
He did confirm with me around 3 o'clock this afternoon, but I asked him if he would send it in writing.
Yes, we don't want them to back up from that position. So before we blast it out to everybody, media. We would prefer to have that, in writing, but that's what it looks like. The 31st, 5 to 7, at the New Ebenezer Retreat Center. Yes, ma'am, and of course, we'll send it out to every possible avenue that we have as soon as we receive that confirmation, which we expected this afternoon, so hopefully we'll have it tomorrow.
Yeah, there was something floating around there, we were gonna do it during our meeting, I don't know where that came from.
That came from the meeting.
Correct. I think it was just
We were trying
a,
to put something together.
Gotcha.
we were spitballing, I believe, the proverbial term for that, and it didn't stick. This coming Saturday, between the hours of 8 and 12, we'll have a community cleanup that will be ran primarily by the ROTC of the South Effingham High School. It's within the subdivision of Regal Farms. I got Zero Road, that's not right, is it?
Well, it's that they're gonna have the dumpsters at the fire station over there from around that area.
On Zero Road.
They're gonna go road.
Yeah, from 8 to 12 will be the actual community cleanup, but from sun up to sundown, they will have dumpsters at the Road Fire Station that anybody can go dump their trash in for free that day. I think they're asking for not tires and batteries, but they're not gonna refuse it either. But that'll be free of charge on that day to dump. Any dumpster that will be provided by Republic at the Road Fire Station. And there will be volunteers between 8 and 12 actually picking up trash within the county and Zero Road.
And they're asking for volunteers.
Correct, they're asking for volunteers if anybody wants to go out and help. And then probably the last thing that I believe I have here is we currently had asked for y'all to do budget meetings the first week of April, be the 6th to the 10th. Unless y'all tell me different, I don't plan to be here that week. And we, as you know, we canceled our meeting that week, and hopefully some of y'all are planning to be on too, so it doesn't make me look so bad. But we would like to back that up to the previous week, which should be the 30th of this month through the 3rd of April, March 30th through April 3rd. So we're soliciting input from the board to see if any of y'all are available on that week, and if you are, that's what we would like to work for schedule.
Check my calendar.
And we are completing the first rounds of budget talks. We will complete that really this Friday, I guess, with everybody. So we'll have a preliminary budget put together for y'all. It'll look real pretty, but all the information will be there. It'll be bits and pieces still. We'll provide y'all with the numbers, capital requests, personnel requests, all the supporting documentation we've done, and updating the order of things.
As far as what time in the morning,
We have not determined that really. What we're trying to get is the week nailed down that y'all can do it. And then I think what we talked about is scheduling out slots and then making that calendar available to all of y'all so that you can attend what you can. Because I don't know that there's any way all of you are going to be able to be here through the entire process.
March 30th through what? April what?
April 3rd. It's the Monday through Friday.
The whole week?
Yes, ma'am. 2 weeks from now. If that's okay with y'all, we'll move forward with that. What we'll do is we'll build a schedule, because certain ones we want the department heads there to have a chat with y'all, so we need to work with them on their schedules too, and then we will just publish the schedule to every one of y'all, and y'all can make what you're available for.
That works for me. I'll be back with them.
Does anybody have a problem with that week? The days, no, they can't do it.
only the 30th.
And I don't know how they'll shake out. The previous round took a full 2 weeks, so, we're gonna try to condense this down to a week, but I think we can get there, because the meeting should be much shorter now that we went through the first time. And you probably don't want to see everybody in the summer, stay there, so. But that's fine, we'll go ahead and get that schedule put together before we make it available as soon as possible. Probably will be next week though, because we're still finishing meetings this week before we stop and get everybody together. But hopefully next week, hopefully earlier next week, we'll get that out to y'all. Ma'am? I believe so.
What it? Joanna, you got anything?
While she's talking, I just want to say, you guys appointed me to the Family Connection Board of Directors. Great things are going on over there. They had a meeting last Thursday, and it's extremely informative of different things that are happening in the county, from the food pantries to galas and support groups and fundraisers, and just, I've got a list of things here, and I've gotten some flyers as well from the meeting that I will put in the boxes, just so that you guys are aware of what's going on. One thing I would like to mention is, I know that you all know George Gross with the Habitat for Humanity. George will be retiring, and they are holding an event on April 18th at the Habitat store. I'm not sure what time. Yeah, but as soon as I find out, I'll let you all know. Good things going on with Family Connection.
Did something else come up?
No, sir.
Okay. Johnny, you got something?
No, sir, you did all the ones we needed.
Okay. Clint, you said that? All right.
I've had some calls about the roads needing trash picked up. I worked with Adam last week about Old River Road. Right after that happened, I had a complaint about Highway 17 from like Blue Jay to 80. So, I'd like to get that looked at.
Well, since you opened the door, ever so briefly, I'll interject that we are still moving forward with fire realignments, and I would like to get before we all with a workshop, and that's Stephanie reminded me this as we were bannering the other one in April, if at all possible, so that we can go over the fire report that was prepared by our consultant and the agreement that we're trying to work on, with the cities, and go ahead and get that approved and in place as quickly as possible, so we can make that transition happen. Because it's
That's important to our budget.
ma'am,
That's important to our budget.
it's important to our budget. I believe it's now been confirmed that by the end of April, 1st of May, at the latest, ISO's going to come visit us. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So we'd like to, of course, all of our implementations will not be there. Tustin won't be done, Arbor, the new, but we have a plan to do them, but we would like to move forward as quickly as possible.
So you want to have when are you saying a workshop at when?
Didn't y'all decide the 1st of May for if we could do it at the April meeting, that'd be great, April 21st. If that's okay with y'all.
Probably needs to.
That's what I wanted to push out.
Yeah, so we'll go over the entire plan. Most of it y'all have already approved and put in place, but we do need to go over with y'all in the format of the whole.
Can we do it in an hour? 4?
Do whatever time you give me.
Let's do it for them.
Workshop, 4 o'clock.
Yes, sir, and we'll go ahead and get with Skip and see if we can get him to answer any of y'all's questions. But I believe that we should be able to do an hour. You've heard most of it in bits and pieces. We're just going to string it all together for you.
Good.
Okay. Here.
I did follow up with the fellow that's the head at Republic Waste, Tim, and verify that instead of just doing a cleanup every quarter, so that there's 4 a year, we can do 5 a year, so that we can represent every district every year. And I've already had mine, and I said, they're going to piggyback this. He did say also that this 5 a year would not affect any of the other programs that they're doing, but since they do have this one program in place, I thought they're going to go ahead and piggyback District 1 with what's happening. What was the date that you just said that was happening at Big Farms?
This Saturday, 21st.
21st. Okay. So that will leave District 1 and District 2 will be taken care of this year. So District 3, 4, and 5, you guys can go ahead and decide and make a plan of what area you want to have done and what dates, somewhere between now and the end of the year, and just try to stagger them every 2 months. And we can do District 3, District 4, District 5, or however, but I just wanted that out there. So be thinking about where you want the benefit for your time coming up, and we'll get that scheduled. That's all I have.
Let's go ahead and do planning board at 7 o'clock. I'll come back to y'all. Just hold on to it for a minute.
I might have that here.
All right. First item item, planning board recommends denying an application by Joe Dowdy for a variance of 2.5 feet from a side yard setback located at 259 Cypress Creek Lane, map number 416C, parcel number 115 in the 2nd district.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dowdy's purchasing a home in the, on Cypress Creek Lane in the Belmont Glen neighborhood. His contractor was going to build an accessory structure for him. They poured the slab too close to the side yard setback. So Mr. Dowdy's applied for a variance. Excuse me. It'll be a 2.5 foot variance from the 10 foot side yard setback. And the staff and planning board recommended denial.
Did, I assume that required building permit inspections, right?
Yes.
And I guess it wasn't all, not just the inspectors, so I guess.
Well, they caught it when they poured the slab. I don't know at what point they came out there.
I was figuring maybe they caught it at slab or.
Yeah.
Could he add to the slab on the other end away from the
He
fence?
certainly can.
That's what they're talking about doing. I called George since this is my district today.
Just let the 2 feet stick out and do something?
Yeah.
Cut
They
it off?
can leave that there and actually let it be like a little patio or something, because it's, just not part of the actual structure, so. And he even said that the applicant, even though they've applied for this variance, is okay if it's denied, because the builder's got to fix it. So,
Yeah, the applicant didn't go to the planning board. I don't know that the applicant's here or not, but he wasn't. When I talked to him, he wasn't terribly concerned one way or the other. The builder was going to take care of
it's
it.
been caught in a stage that it's reasonable to fix, so.
Maybe force to the other end of it and do away with that.
Public hearing, anybody here wish to speak for this variance request? Or against? Nobody here? 2nd district.
I'll make a motion to support the planning board and staff recommendation of denial of the variance.
Second.
Motion and a second to deny. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. Consideration to approve the 2nd reading of an application by Joe Dowdy.
That item was unnecessary.
I would think.
Do we need a denial vote or just,
I think just a vote to remove it from the,
I'll make a motion that we remove this item from the agenda?
Second. Motion and a second to remove. All in favor? Any opposed? So removed. Next item, sketch plan. The planning board recommends approving an application by Wilson Burns for a sketch plan for the cottages, phase 1, for 16 lots located on Little McCall Road, map number 392, parcel number 2 in the 4th district.
Yes, sir. This is a sketch plan that was missing a couple of items. The planning board recommended approval with the stipulation that those items would be here by now. The applicant is not here, nor are the items I was hoping to find, the proof of water service or a water system master plan. There's also an access easement shown that is not allowed on major subdivisions. I would recommend either tabling or denying this item.
Being which one being best, probably.
I mean, I contacted the applicant on a number of times asking for the items. I don't know if it's not priority at this point for the applicant or,
Is there one of the options that would be more helpful or harmful if we, do they have to come back through if we deny?
they have to.
Deny 6 months. Deny
So it's
6
6
months.
months.
So we better consider that.
Table it and then deny it if they don't show up next month.
That hit me, yeah. We're the district.
Table it to the 21st.
4th district.
Fourth district. Any motion?
Make a motion to table it to when the,
April 21st.
okay.
Motion and a second to table the 21st of April. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried. George, is this one the one that they were talking about shared drives, or whether they got to have shared drives?
This would probably need shared drives. We have an access management policy that I haven't checked the speed limit. I believe this would require shared drives depending on the width of the lots. The sketch plan is really kind of
Sketchy.
This is an interesting one because this is the part that he's showing, they own all this property.
Yeah.
There's 16 lots shown, the sum total will be greater than 20, which would require fire protection. And one of the things we're trying to determine is, are they planning on providing fire protection or not? And it seems short-sighted to do all the work we're doing on ISO and then allow something that is detrimental to that.
Yeah.
This is also one that the board has an existing water and sewer agreement on with the previous developer, which could be transferred over. The legalities of that, whether it's still valid or not, is a whole other point. They did not want to utilize that. They wanted to utilize a private source, so we're trying to determine where that water will actually come from.
So the property we approved of mining,
Sorry,
is this part of the property we approved the mining permit on?
not to my knowledge, but that's subdivision.
Okay.
Correct. This got as far as subdivision plans years ago, and it
Yeah. This was a
ultimately went back to the bank. It was called the Cottages. Was Wayne Edwards.
2006, I think.
Ultimately went back to the bank, has been purchased, and they're picking it back up, trying to do something with it.
It looks like y'all doing your job. It hit me. But somebody asked me something, and I was wondering if this was the one. All right. That ends the planning board. All right, where do I leave off? Mr. Keith?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're good. Mr. Jackson?
I just want to say thank you to Tulls and Chief Hodges for the help with the Griffin Lakes Fire Station. That'll be a huge positive financial impact for those folks in that area. So thank you for y'all's help.
Yes, sir.
You doing a good job? I don't have anything. Anybody else? Miss anybody? All right, I need a motion for executive session.
Make a motion to go into executive session, discuss personnel, property, and pending litigation.
Second. Motion and a second, all in favor? All right. Last item, consideration to approve the minutes, executive session minutes from March 3rd, 2015. Second. Motion and a second to approve as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.